TCQ, have there been any citations issued by TCQ?
They gave us a violation of the freeboard. They want us 18 inches. Right now, I have it at 14. But as I lower the freeboard, the way the application works, the brush aerators, they're not getting into the water, and it's gonna damage.
I think the problem goes back to when the oxidation ditch was originally designed. It was designed with 12 inches of freeboard. I think the person that came out with TCQ made a comment it needed to be 18 inches, but that may be a standard today. But back in 1965, it wasn't. So I think we're working with them, just trying to make them understand that this is sort of an existing condition, you know, whether you call it grandfathering or not. This basin was done back at the time where there was only a requirement for 12 inches of freeboard. So Andrew really can't get it less than 12 inches for it to be operating at its optimal point. So we're working with TCQ to get that cleared up. So we think that's going to be addressed without a problem. But still, because of the heavy rains and the impact of the plant, we still think we need to do that kind of, it's called a flow equalization type basin that will capture any overflow to allow the plant to continue to operate, and then after the event ends, to be able to pump it back into the plant. So I think that will address TCQ's concern regarding any future overflows.
Larry, you said the belt press was going to be expensive. When you're talking is it easier or less expensive to purchase the belt press, or?
Well, I mean, I think the rental was, what was it, $50,000 for 2 months or something?
Yeah, we looked at a contract that was about $11,000 a month, and I think you asked for like 2 months, which would be $22,000 to rent the machine, and then it comes with a technician that has to be paid, and they pay in his hotel room and those kind of things. So when we finished, even to move it here, is $2,000 each way. So just from my rough calculation, somewhere between $38,000 and $40,000 on the low end, and we do have power out there. I think those belt press run about $250,000 a piece.
Yeah, I mean, the smaller ones, I mean, it's probably, when you add everything else to it, the conveyors and electrical power, access for a truck, you probably could be looking at close to $300,000 or $400,000, maybe $500,000. But we are going to address that with this proposed expansion, which I can touch on just briefly here for a minute.
I was going to ask, I mean, are a lot of these issues going to be addressed through the USDA grant?
Definitely, yes. I mean,
So
we
you
have,
get reimbursed? Is that how it works?
Well, some of the things that we're doing at our engineering is they understand at our O&M that we have to keep this plant running and operating.
Right.
So that's the approach that we're taking, not just the normal maintenance, and you're right, Councilman Rodriguez, we do need to maintain it. And so we're hoping to maintain what we have, but also keep it running, because as we have all these new things come online, we need to make sure that we're in compliance. And so that's why we, have our engineer working with us, so that we can actually make some decisions on what we can do to keep it running, but also in anticipation of what's going to happen for the new. In the new design, a belt press is part of that.
right, yeah, definitely, several years ago, we put in a new influent lift station and a new bar screen headworks, which was sized for what we need to go to for this next expansion. So we've done that already, and that was just under $1 million, about $900,000. Now with this new plant, the new expansion that we've been talking about now for probably a good 6, 8, 10 months, and working with USDA on that, we have a plan now to expand that plant capacity. It's actually, from a standpoint of peak flow, it'll because of the changes in in TCEQ requirements, the actual flow capacity of the new plant will be about 300% more than the existing plant. The average permit will actually be on about 900,000 gallons a day to about 1.2 million gallons a day. But what's key on the plant is the ability to handle these peak flows, and so we have to have a factor of 4 peak factor in the new design criteria which we're required to meet. But we have a plant that we think meets your needs probably for the next, after this thing is built, for the next 40 years, 35 years. We don't want to go further than that because technology changes, and there's a good chance that they'll be slipping out better in 35 or 40 years. So that's kind of a normal way of expanding a plant. And we've gone through a lot of, with USDA over the last couple of months, things have sped up almost like light speed with them. They have evidently gotten some money available for these type of uses. And they have just changed their attitude completely now. We're moving very quickly. They basically have, we've worked with them over the last 2 months, defining a project. We've actually identified a couple of other projects, should their money be available and the city decide to do that. But right now, we have as part of the wastewater plant expansion, that's a total cost, including contingencies, engineering and everything else, is about $5.9 million. Along with that, we're going to be replacing or improving completely the 2 major lift stations y'all have, one being on Highway 97 and one being at Power Creek. And that's a total cost with contingencies of about $700,000. So that part of the project is, we kind of refer to it as phase 1, is about $6.6 million. And then we identified 2 other projects that were kind of part of the outcome of our sewer model that we completed last year. And these are some of your lines that are near capacity, your larger lines that are real expensive to replace. And we have about a $2.8 million kind of phase 2 if the funds, if y'all decide to move forward with that, for a total application that we've submitted to USDA, excuse me, for about $9.4 million. So they have all that information. They're processing it. It looks real good. They work with the city finance folks, and it looks pretty good that you're going to be able to have that option in front of you shortly to move forward with some pretty major, well needed work in the city sewer system. So,
Henrietta, is there any way that we can monitor how many hours we're spending on taking the sludge or paying Republic for the sludge delivery while we have a truck here? Is there any way to monitor that cost and hours spent?
Yes, we'll be monitoring that because we'll get the bills immensely and what we're doing even on site. So Mr. Heimer and his co-op William have been going out there to the site stuff because we want to make sure that the plan is up. TCQ, we're in compliance. I know that's really important to the mayor as well as to myself that we're able to do that. So they were just out in the field, was it Monday, that we went by, that they were actually physically at the plant so that we could be able to do that. We'll run those numbers for you to see what we're talking about, but what we needed to speed up, what we needed from Republic to move it a lot faster. They have way more trucks than we do. We're talking about sending 1 truck a day. They're giving me 2 trucks they're giving me 3 times a week? So they're actually getting, to help us get down. We need to get our levels down. But we can come back and keep that, but we wanted to let you all know that we are monitoring it very closely. The engineer is on the case, but he's actually on site physically as well. So we want to make sure that plant's running and stays in compliance while we wait for our brand new plant.
Can I make a correction that we were cited on 2 things, not just one? The other, I believe, was a roll-off of the first one, which is a spillage into, correct?
what was that? Excuse me again?
It was a spillage.
Well, there was basically the TCEQ violation letter came related to the overflow of their oxidation ditch during the rainfall event. I believe that was where that
I'm
issue.
saying that it was an over of the first, because of the issues that we had on the first thing.
Right, that was the overflow of the oxidation ditch, which we're going to address. And it was related to a series of events that occurred over about a 2 or 3 month period, probably that attributed to that. Also, probably just maintenance problems, breakdowns in the clarifiers that they were trying to fix because everything is so old there, you just can't order the equipment or the part and have, it's almost like a handmade process, you know, making bearings and making gearboxes and making shear pins, things like that.
The violation was on the on the aerators and on the freeboard. That's what's on the violation.
Right.
It's just a notice of violation.
Right.
Just a notice.
And then I wanted to ask, how long does it take that buildup to build up? What we're trying to get rid of? It didn't happen overnight, I know that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was probably some buildup in the oxidation ditch that had occurred over a long period of time, but it didn't surface as being a problem until recently. So then add to that the clarifier that went down in the city and the clog and some of the lines that got clogged from the oxidation ditch to the clarifiers, that all added significantly to that sludge problem, and it just became a problem at that point in time.
But we took care of the clarifier, though, right?
Right.
We already took care of that.
Yeah, the lines, matter of fact, Monday, Sarah came and repaired the lines on that. that gave us an inch on the freeboard. But that's when I noticed, and I called Larry, and I said, look, I'm at 14 inches. These brushes aren't hitting the water at all. It's gonna cause me damage on the DO of the piece of the plant. I don't think I can go 18 inches, but if I go 18 inches, that's gonna be down here, and the loaders are gonna be hitting up. So that's one of the questions that he's gonna ask. If we're grandfathered 12 inches of freeboard when this design was done on the observation ditch, 12 inches should be the compliance.
Right, and then plus the floating aerator, it's important that y'all try to fund that as quickly as possible. We're gonna be getting cost on that, because that will then, the floating aerator isn't impacted by the height of the water. It pretty much, it just rises and lowers itself based on the height of the water. So that will provide you a more consistent introduction of oxygen into that mix.
Are we undersized?
No, at this point in time, you meet, the permit was just renewed last month. And so, but you know, right now, the plant is grandfathered under the previous rules that were in effect. When we do the upgrades and the expansion of the plant, we're required to meet new requirements, which, you know, are much more stringent, and that's
Based on today's standards, we're undersized, correct?
yes, based on today's standards, yes. But you still, your permit was just approved and
Correct.
for another, 3-5 years. And so, again, that's just the way TSEC handles these things. It's impossible to take an old plant and try to upgrade it to meet new standards without doing a major construction project. And so they acknowledge that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Harmon, you said the plant was built when?
Well, it was built over a series of different times, but I think based on the plans that we found, the oxidation ditch and the first clarifier was built in the 60s. 65, 66, I believe.
My engineer guys.
Our gas, yes.
1965.
Right. So it's done a great job. It's just that it's been there too long. But this is the timing, if everything goes as it looks right now, the timing of this new project, if it goes forward and all approved going forward, we could have the new plant, you know, online by the end of 2016, beginning of 2017. So unfortunately, it takes a while, but that's about when you could expect to see some changes occur, dramatic changes occur.
Does anyone have any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Harmon.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy. Okay, now we're going to go on to item 1C. Henrietta, possible workshop on the 15th.
Thank you, Mayor. Not everything goes by schedule, but I am doing pretty good. We did get the audit, and we accepted the audit on the 26th of March. It passed. Now it's time to meet with our financial advisor, a potential candidate for our bond council, and where they are both available on the 15th of April, tax day. So we're hoping that we can schedule a meeting with them to talk about our financing and what we need to do now that we have the audit completed and done. He's run some numbers for us, and he has to present to you all, and then he can lay out a schedule. So I'm hoping that we can schedule a workshop meeting between the city council and 4A board members to come on the 15th at 6:30. So are you all amenable to that?
That'd be 2 sets of bond lawyers.
No, sir, there would be one set of bond lawyers. I only need one. I have a potential candidate, but the council hasn't approved anyone, but we are making a recommendation. We have somebody to present to you. If you all care to have another presentation at a later date, we can arrange that as well. But the bond council that the staff is recommending and presenting to you is, say the name of the company, Lou?
Martin Rose Fulbright.
Norton Rose Fulbright. Is who a representative will be here, and Victor Kroger, your Hyoga? will be here for your financial advisor to start this process. It will leave there and then move on to the 23rd, our next city council meeting, to start approving those things to do and move forward with the refinancing and restructuring of the bonds for the event center. And so this meeting needs to be a joint meeting between the city council and 4A.
On the 23rd.
On the 15th,
Oh, on this workshop?
on the 15th for the workshop, he'll present everything. It's a Wednesday.
15th is a Wednesday.
Yes, it
He's available on that Wednesday,
is. Everybody's tax day.
tax day, money day, and then we can move it forward to the 23rd based on that workshop.
Madam Mayor, the only concern I have is if you're gonna go through a process of selecting the professionals involved, you ought to have the selection process probably before you spend a lot of time with them, or you need to tell the other professionals that might be interested if they can participate in the work.
Now, if I can say, based on what your attorney just said, that Victor Kruger recommends this company. I know this company has worked with the city before. It is a professional service, so you don't necessarily have to bid it, but if you're asking for other people, I can be able to do that. But it is time consuming.
And
To
my
be able to
point,
do it.
Madam Manager and Madam Mayor, is not that we should go out and procure other people, but we need to make the selection process. That's my only point. If you're gonna pick one professional, that's fine, but they ought to be under contract or ought to have some kind of relationship before we start using their services. Otherwise, we're gonna get another one of these invoices.
So you will let me know how you want to handle it. Bond counsel is very important. I need bond counsel to do our USDA, but we definitely need bond counsel on this particular one. So Mayor, if we could
Do
start.
that on the 23rd, council meeting 23rd?
You have to, I think what Lewis said, you have to select an attorney first.
And the FA.
And your
it may be-
financial
It may be, excuse me, it may be a pure formality because they've been here a while, but I just think it's an appropriate thing to do to avoid,
But it would have to be done prior to the workshop, is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying it has to be, I'm
But we
just
can do it
saying,
at the council meeting the 23rd,
right.
and still invite them to the workshop.
I think this can be done. I've proposed to the manager that we do a formal, quick presentation and make sure they're on board.
Will you take care of that?
Yes, we can do that. I have the language from the attorney for approval of those two agencies as a formality, because I just assumed that Victor Kruger was going to be your representative since he did this before and he presented to you during budget time. But he needs to walk us through, not only council, but he needs to walk staff through, county as well, of how this is going to do. And he gave us a letter back in January of the steps that we need to make. There's things that you all are going to have to pass. There's interest rates we need to talk about. Also, we need to talk about our credit rating, and he may have some information on that. Victor can give all that to us. But if you're going to select one, that's the last one that you use, was Fulbright, so they can come and present, and then we can take it from there if you want to have some.
We'll do them on the 15th workshop.
Yes, so is the 15th workshop okay at 6:30? Then we will post that, okay? Madam Secretary?
And I would like to make a comment that it's not advisable to change the financial advisor at this point, because we already have this person hired by the city and knows the history of the bond and the need for the restructuring. So changing the financial advisor at this point will be not advisable. It will be something that you cannot do. However, the bond council, that can be selected because we don't have one right now. And that is not something that is needed by the city continuously, those services. But the financial advisor is already in place, and I don't think it's advisable to change it at this point.
We don't have a written contract with them, which is.
Yeah, we're going to clean it up. Thank you so much.
Can I add to that one other thing that the council needs to, if you'll help me on this, Madam Manager? We're at a point where we have a dollar figure that we can spend this year on bonds. We need to be fairly careful how we allocate that in terms of refinancing of the
Okay. I can speak on the subject and not be in trouble, right?
Well, you can speak on the subject because you're talking about who's gonna be hired to do this.
One of the things that's happening is that, as you know, Phelps came before us, and we were always concerned about this magical $10 million. And the $10 million is reference to what they call bond, bank qualified, right? So there's a $10 million out there. Okay. As we do this, somewhere in the range of $8.5 to $8.7 million for the bond, it takes away from that cap, and they like to leave a little space. So that will be it for 2015. The loan for the USDA is about $7 million. They're talking about $7 million in loan, the rest of it actually in a grant. That'll hit, and we need to coordinate it so it hits this second. Every year I only get the same $10 million. And so the next year we'll be funding, and hopefully we can get our bond council to fund it just right, that it can actually only be next year in the funds. I mean, of course, we're going out for some more money later on, because USDA is definitely incentivized to give loans as well as grants, that we can actually do something in 2017. Your financial advisor is recommending this company to do bond counsel. Also, USDA is recommending this same company, Fulbright, to do bond counsel on that, because you need bond counsel on that as well. They say there's only a few companies in the state of Texas that can do it. I understand that it is not necessarily the most economical one, but he is the best, or they are the best at what they do. And when you have your financial advisor recommending that you use them, and USDA recommending that you use them, I would recommend that you use them. And they've done it, because it's going to get tricky over the next 2 to 3 years in reference to keeping control over this cap of money that we have available to us, the city of Floresville. And so we need to make sure that we do that right. And Walker, I have to agree with the comptroller, changing players at this time may be counterproductive at this time. But that's why I need them to come before you, present to you, for you all to feel comfortable, and then to bring, like I said, not only you, but staff up to speed on how we're going to do this in our marching orders, because they actually would like to close this sometime in May.
Yeah, and also when you do the workshop for April 15, you do not have to have at that point that bond counsel in it. It can be only done by Victor Quiroga, because what we're gonna go over is the process and the timeline that we're gonna take to do these restructuring. And then at that point, you can also speak about who will be representing on bond counsel. But so we can.
Legal was saying that he should be there, right?
No, we're saying, yeah, that the bond council needs, they want.
They
Fulbright
need
to
it
be
because
on the
They're
15th.
recommending, but it's not, they don't have to be there. They can wait until the 23rd.
He needs to hear from the beginning. He needs to really hear what's going
Saying
on.
that he shouldn't be there.
He doesn't have to
He
be there.
doesn't have to.
The
be
best case
We want him
scenario
there.
is for him to be there. For you all to meet a representative from Fulbright, to see, because they are a major partner in that.
May I give one piece of information so you understand? Everybody,
One little piece of-
everybody understands that the USDA is a loan. Please, for the purpose of our discussion, think of them as a bond issue. The reason I say that is you're a public entity, you can't issue a note and deed of trust. So what you issue to USDA is a single instrument bond, and what the USDA does is they buy that one bond from you based on your revenue stream, and that's your financing mechanism as opposed to a note and deed of trust. That's the reason for the bond lawyer that they're asking for.
So we'll have a lot to talk about on the 15th. Thank you.
May we reflect, Madam President, that by unanimous consent, that's a workshop meeting, 6 o'clock for the 15th?
6:30.
6:30. I'm asking so that we can reflect in the minutes.
Okay, now we're going to go on to item 2A, consideration and action to select a talent agency for events sponsored by the city of Floresville. At this time, I'll entertain citizen comments.
I can be quiet. Jim Lawhon, citizen of Floresville. You've heard me say that I don't like the city being involved in events like this. That said, Mr. Anjoini basically said something that I wanted to say, which was, I think we ought to bring outside promoters in and incentivize them with our hotel motel tax money for marketing purposes. We'll get there someday. But what I really want to say today is that we're talking about spending hotel motel tax dollars. We just recently created a visitor and tourist bureau whose purpose is to look at that and make recommendations to the council on what to do. And the first thing we've done is bypassed it. So what I'm asking you to do is not to throw this whole thing away, but to just follow the process that you put in place already. And that is to send this back to your Visitor and Tourist Bureau, allow them to look at this if they want to issue an RFP or an RFQ for professional services or however they want to look at it, and come back to you with a recommendation on what to do with this. If you don't follow that, what you're essentially saying to the Visitor and Tourism Bureau and all of us that are on boards around the city is that we're going to bypass you when it's not convenient. And what that's also going to do is make it hard to recruit people that are going to work and volunteer to do things for the city because they don't believe that they're doing anything that's worthwhile or that's recommended. So just follow the process, folks. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you.
The comment I would make to that is that we've had two entities come to the city without any questions asked. We have, according to the paper, doled out $30,000 to each of them. We did not go to a committee and ask for their guidance. We just said, here's the check. And actually, these gentlemen right here are sponsoring or doing that event. But again, like I brought up the last time, the perception is it's a Hispanic Tejano event. So let's find all kinds of ways to send it to committee, to delay it, postpone it. I said that from the very start. I felt that the concept of this committee was not to promote, but actually to delay things. But I supported it as a support to our city manager. And one day when the committee does get formed, I agree with you. But at this point, it has not even been formed. All the entities have not even submitted a representative at this point.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion, Mayor.
Before you do, on the selected talent agency, we're not hiring from anything. Basically, we're selecting an agency who, in this case, when the Visitor Bureau is created, who's going to work with them, correct? I mean, we're not agreeing to contract with them right now. We're not signing an agreement saying that we're going to give you 5 events for every year. These, I mean, nothing like that. Basically, we're recommending an agency to promote events in Fort.
Correct.
Correct, right? So there's no money exchanging hands, anything based. I understand what Mr. Longman is saying about, let the Visitors Bureau get developed, but like Mr. Tejada said, I mean, it's slowly coming together, and it seems like we're giving them a couple of projects beforehand. And I see nothing wrong with having Mr. Evangelini, I mean, selected, because basically all we're doing is we're saying, here's a talent agency. If he goes to them, proposes an event to them, they say, no, we don't want to do that, no, we don't agree with that, there's nothing. I mean, basically, it's his time lost, correct? At this point, I mean.
Right, and one of the things I know the attorney's gonna wanna do is have some kind of agreement or contractual agreement about what the fees are and those kind of things that we can do, but we would only spend the time and energy if you all select to do that. So it would lay out the parameters of what his commission would be, if commission is a proper word I can use, or his booking fee would be, and we can set those up. Once you all say, this is what I need to spend time with. Same thing we did with the engineers. They came, they presented, and then we worked on the agreement to say, this was standard fees and go forward.
Henrietta, has this been advertised properly, or has it been advertised at all?
No, it has not been advertised at all.
So, I mean, theoretically, there could be, this could be flooded with a bunch of, people that want to give their presentation and want to throw their name on the hat as well, correct?
There was another company that came and said they wanted to present, but they could not make it tonight.
So to me, what I'm saying is that if we're going to do this, let's do it right from the beginning. If we can advertise it properly, as well as hear everyone out. Thank you, Mr. Angelini, for showing up today and giving your presentation. But we still need to make the correct decision, an educated decision by having more than Mr. Angelini. Having everyone come in and put their name in the hat and give us their input as well.
And as I asked at the prior meeting, that the city council not be involved in this process,
Correct.
because I'm just gonna pretend I'm one of the citizens out there. I would say, okay, Danny, what's your kickback? I mean, I'm just, you know, being there because it just, and I'm not saying you give a kickback, but I'm pretending I'm one of those people out there because, you know, it's been out there. We need to
You would have been in jail.
not be involved in it and let the Visitors Bureau handle it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, Councilman Nieto, you said I'm now in number 2. In his briefing, he said, my friend, Danny Tejeda, came to me about the 2015 Christmas event. So the councilman on his own approached this individual. I don't know if he approached Taft. But ultimately, I agree with the two of you sitting on this side.
And we agreed, I believe we agreed that the last time that we would not have our hands in it. I don't know this gentleman, but.
I mean, realistically, the city staff, city employees shall have no part in any of the, you know, anything that goes on with the, you know, hiring of a talent agency. You know, that's not what they're hired to do. I mean,
I'm not asking, all I was asked to do was be a part of something in Floresville, which I've already demonstrated when I, in 2010, actually put my money forward and actually lost money helping the city of Floresville start the convention center.
Mr. Tejada
And
said in one
during
of the meetings on record that it was a very successful event.
They were
That it was
very-
very
That's not what he's
profitable.
talking about. He's talking about a July event that he put on himself.
No, he said Christmas.
No. I didn't put any, I just helped them book it. What I'm doing here is,
We're like getting off here.
Get off.
Making accusations.
You're,
We're not gonna go into the past and make accusations here, because we're never gonna finish.
We're never gonna stop.
If I understood Councilman Nieto, what he was saying was that if we vote tonight, he would be one of maybe 5 that the Jury's Bureau would be
Correct.
seeking for.
no, I didn't understand.
That's not the way it's.
I mean,
That's not
we're
the
not
way it's
limiting to the
verbalized.
choosing, yeah, that's what I'm saying, they could come back and say, they could put it out, or whatever the case may be. I mean, I think Mr. Angelini, at this point, once he's got his foot in the door, I mean, he's got to sell himself and sell his services on what he can do or can't do. And
you
it's
will not find anyone that's more capable.
Well, I
than
know,
our-
I'm just
If
saying.
you look at my credentials.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I'm offering those credentials to the city, and I'm hoping that you will understand that you have one of the better promoters in Texas standing in front of you. And I'll put my reputation against anybody else, and I would ask you to bring other promoters from the area here to show you the same kind of credentials that I have. What I am worth and what I'm selling to you is more than just dollars, 10% here, 15% there. I really would like to help that convention center wake up. And I did that back when, and I still feel that way now. Mr. Tejeda is a friend of mine. He asked me, hey, Bill, what do you think? I said, I'd like to come and present, and that's why I'm here.
I think this, you know, going along with Councilman Nieto is that, you know, this agenda item is a little bit too vague to say that we're gonna, you know, select one and go on to the next person and go on to the next person and get a series of 5 votes. You know, this agenda item is just too vague to say that. I mean,
It's gonna continue for a whole, another 30 minutes.
Let me back up to a couple items. So many. Your very last item on tonight's agenda, and it may be appropriate to just talk about it in a second. The lease agreement that we talked about at the workshop, when you look at the revisions that we furnished to you tonight, contemplates that the 4A basically goes out of business except for passing the tax on to the people that are owed the bonds. Okay? It's the way the document's drafted, as we understood. And so the city takes over the operation of the the Civic Center, Convention Center, the whole building, the whole works out there, including the dirt. Now, I'm saying that in part to answer Councilman Guerrero's question about who's gonna be doing running what. That means the city council and or the city manager are gonna be in the convention and civic center business, in the recreational business. Because we're telling the 4A, it will be functioning like a tip. Now, follow my logic, if you will, for just a minute. Assuming that you're gonna do that lease tonight, and assuming that 4A agrees to that lease, under those terms and conditions, the decision does come back to the council as to how you want to run the civic center, or the convention center, or the tourist bureau. Then you have the comment that Mr. Lawhon made about what should be the sequence of selection. And my recommendation to you tonight is that you think about some form of short-term selection, possibly of this group, somebody else, to get this process going. We've been talking about the hotel motel tax now since last June. We've got about $500,000 in that fund. That's one of your better funded funds. And that's how you bring some of the stuff. And I passed an item out tonight for all of you to look at that comes out of TML's deal. It talks about what you've got to do to get going on the process. So I think there's some interim things that Mr. Tejada's talked about that could be done. What you're talking about when you hire Mr. Angelini or somebody comparable to him is like an insurance broker. And they're subject to being hired and fired pretty much at will. And depending on your contract, yes they are. And so you could hire him on a temporary basis. You could put him off and make him go through the Tourist and Convention Bureau when he gets formed. You've got several options on that. But I do want to caution you that we're proposing tonight, and I'm just saying this to you, Mr. Guerrero, to be answering you directly. We are proposing the lease that we talked about in the workshop, and that lease does provide, 4A basically goes out of the convention business, and the rest of the city continues to run the convention business, account for the money, make sure the bonds get paid off until we make other arrangements. So my recommendation is, if you want to table this for a week, meeting, and do some invitations for somebody else, that's fine. But we're really talking about getting a brokerage firm. I'm sorry that may not be your choice, but we're talking about somebody to get kick-started on something towards getting heads to bids and the hotel and motel tax kicked off at the Civic Center.
Let me address the thing that the guy Jones says, that we're friends. Bill, can you give an explanation of our friendship, of our relationship? I mean, how did we know each other?
Well, we met, basically.
I'd like to hear the love story, but.
Yes.
Love story?
Just to clarify, because the newspaper's here also, just to clarify, I mean, did we go to high school together?
No.
Explain to me.
Basically, when the convention center was being spoken about.
Mr. Ortiz has made a motion.
We have a motion on the floor, so we
Okay.
can finish this off first.
I think you covered one, Johnny, so there
Mayor,
technically is
Mayor,
a
make a
motion.
motion to select Bill Angelini Enterprise for events sponsored by the city of Floresville.
For what term, please?
We need a turn?
No, we don't.
You can leave it open
It's open.
until you determine otherwise.
It's open.
Okay, have a motion, may I have a second?
A second?
Second by Councilman Nieto. Councilman Rodriguez, how do you vote?
No.
Councilman Guerrero?
No.
Councilman Bell?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 3-2. Okay, now we're going to go on to item 2B, consideration and action to approve budget amendment number 2 to purchase a tractor for shredding. Tanya, Ms.
to working with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, Connie's here. She's been sick for a little while, so I want to apologize for any of the typos that we had in the budget amendments. I was in my rush and my haste, so please forgive all the typos. We try to get them, the new ones. And so this, first, we have several tonight. We're hoping that in the future we can run them together, not necessarily individually. But we could start with the one that you call, Mayor, the budget amendment that talks about the wonderful tractor for shredding. Councilman Nieto, you mentioned that we probably need to find another source to fund, because I think the fund that we're starting to talk about is which one? The Parks and Recreation fee, that wonderful dollar fee off of the water. So we're hoping that, there's one place we can find it, and that is in our surplus. We didn't want to touch that right away. But Connie came up with a really good idea that we can look at doing this, and Connie, you can speak to that if you like.
Okay, I really would like to see these tractors to be purchased because of the need that the city has. We don't have the funds in general fund. We know that. We don't want to deplete our fund balance right now. It will not be a good idea. What we can do is borrow the money from the recreational fee fund and then replenish it once we start seeing tax money, sales tax money coming in above of what we had budgeted. And this will happen more or less like in around the month of September when I do the final lineup on the revenues and replenish this money back.
Now, on the tractor, is there really a need for a $35,000 tractor with a cab? I mean, aren't there other options that we can venture into?
We can get it without the cab, and it is in the documentation that you have in there. And I believe that
even you, what's wrong with the pre-owned tractor? I mean, we're going from having one that's broke down, so anything, I think, that would be an upgrade from that. What's wrong? I mean, there are pre-owned tractors.
Yeah, but
we're
it's-
concerned about the maintenance really with the pre-owned because of what we have to do with those meetings and what we have to cut on the text dot side.
We're thinking we're going to burn it out and be back to you in a little while. We're concerned about the maintenance. So that's why we did find one person that would take it as a trade-in. But we're concerned about the maintenance and how to use it.
What about, like the meetings, I know some just cut them the other day. What do we pay them to cut those?
$2,500.
$2,500?
Yes.
Okay, so how often do they need to be cut?
Actually, they're cut, I think they cut them bi-weekly. They cut them to keep them down, but they can be cut once a month. And so we try to say we can outsource it. Not necessarily I would use that company again, but we can outsource it if you care to, but that's not a budget line item that we have. And so you're going to come into the same problem that we would need to find the funding. But we need to
I still think there's, I mean, just right now, I was gonna do it earlier today and I forgot. I Googled a tractor on one of the ones that we had, I guess that New Holland one that was like for sale for $36,000. I Googled right now, found one at Bill's Equipment Rental that was a demo, had 7 hours, and was $8,000 less. With the same tractor that has 7 hours. 7 hours is not a lot of hours on a tractor. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think we've done our due diligence as far. I mean, it's nice to have a nice, brand new, shiny new tractor. That's the easy route. Let's go buy a new one. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm a used car manager. So, I mean, so I sell a lot of used cars. A lot of people don't want to buy new things because they know as soon as they drive off that lot, that new car is going to be worth as much as that used car. Same thing with the tractor. It's going to depreciate. So I don't think we've done our due diligence. I mean, we need one. And then, so here, let's go find and get 3 quotes on a new one for $36,000. You know, there's money in the dollar fund that we said we're going to use to improve the parks, but now we're going to cut the medians with it. So I think we can find something, in the $20,000, $25,000 range that will be a good tractor and service long. I mean, these companies that sell these used tractors, they don't just take them in on trade and then basically wash them and put them on the lot. I mean, they recondition these tractors. They need belts changing, any kind of service they need, they do them. So tractors are made to last a long time. Because how long did the one that we have last?
I think we've had it for over 12 years.
For over 12 years, exactly. So we can find a year or 2-year-old tractor. I think we can cut this $36,000 somewhere between 15 and 20.
Okay.
That's just my recommendation.
And Steph has no problem tabling this. If you
Yeah,
care
and
to.
then of course cutting the cab out. I mean, it's nice to have the cab.
Well,
It doesn't get that high.
the only reason why I recommend work with a cab is because of stones and, any debris that will be flying once the shredder is working.
Have you ever seen the plexiglass on these cabs? Yeah, they're very cheap. You're not getting a very good.
But I think it's additional, what, $6,000?
Yeah.
So we'll take it back if you care to table it, staff.
And that's just my recommendation. We can come up with some other track, like I said, just right now I Googled, found one that was 2 years old with 7 hours, and it was $8,000, $8,000 less than the new one from the quote that we got. So I think if we look, we can find something out there, find a good deal.
The only reason why they have gone with the new equipment is because usually on heavy equipment, it is a lot better to purchase a new one than to purchase something that it's already been used, because you don't know how it's being used.
Connie, do you have a farm? How do you know that?
I don't have a form.
Yeah, that's right.
You have it in front of you.
That's what the salesman tells you, because he probably gets a bigger commission off that one than the used one, so yeah.
We'll take it back and have Eli
Okay.
sharpen his pen, and we'll see if
And
we
you're
can
right,
find
I don't know
something.
anything about equipment, but that's what a common sense will say.
Or a new one, but without the air conditioning cap.
Yeah, we'll do that.
And as far as you saying about the glass, we haven't had an issue these past 12 years that I'm aware of.
Okay, well, we'll take it back. I mean, staff has no problem taking this. We'll sharpen our pencils and see if we can find.
Yeah, so we can find the next couple of weeks and bring it back, and then we'll
Yes.
go from there. But I like the idea, like you said, if we're gonna borrow and put it, replenish the fund, I mean, that's fine.
And we can work on those numbers for you as well. So staff is not opposed to you
I
taking
don't know,
this
what do you
item.
think, John?
And this borrowing would have come out of the surplus, correct?
No.
No, it will be from the
Just from-
new revenue.
Yeah.
Any additional revenue we can anticipate, we would actually assess to that.
Yeah, the only thing is that if we use that new revenue, it's not gonna be available to activity.
Connie, that account still would have, if we would have gone with this one, would still have a balance of 40 plus.
40 plus, and then it's still gonna replenish every month based on the dollar.
And what were you gonna do with that money?
Well, I've been talking to some different companies to do the bathrooms, because I know I want to bring a proposal to Councilman Nieto. We talked about it several times, and I think Councilman Ortiz as well, in reference to coming with some ideas for the bathrooms. I attended the Park Foundation meeting as well, and that is one of the things that we talked about, was the bathrooms, especially at the Con Park, Lodi, the skate park, and the Watts Tennis Court Park as well, because we need to be able to do those bathrooms and address them.
I make a motion to table item 2B.
Second?
We have a motion to table by Councilman Nieto, seconded by Councilman Ortiz. Councilman Tejada, how do you vote?
Table.
Councilman Guerrero?
Yes, table.
Councilman Rodriguez?
Table.
Motion carries 5-0. Would you make sure that it gets put on the agenda for the next one if you're ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Motion carries 5-0. Now we're going to go on to item,
Who's doing, just real quick, Mayor, who's doing the research on this, on these tractors?
Eli.
By himself?
Yes, but we're gonna help him out. Connie's gonna learn more about tractors than she cares to care
for
about.
the farm.
Yeah, good. Cadillac.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to seek some advice on you.
Councilman Nieto?
I'll do some research for you.
On you, yeah, on you.
You're gonna email me that Google, right?
Okay, we're going to go on to 2C. Consideration and action to approve budget amendment number 3 to purchase a truck for the water department.
Okay, Eli spoke last week, and I didn't invite him again this time, but he spoke about the truck that we need in reference to our water meters. We have 2. The truck is out of service because there's a serious transition issue with it. Now recommended that we put 80 more money and that it won't go. It's having transmission issues. It's going to cost us a lot more to do this truck, and that is one of the ones that they put what's fair, but actually it died. And so we're recommending that we have, I think it's $6,000 to be able to purchase a used vehicle that can be serviced and truck. And there is funding there. We're just moving from one line item to the other. We're not looking into dipping into any reserves or any other special funds.
And this is a used vehicle, right?
It is a used.
And that's where I think we got our wires crossed, because now we're allowing $6,000 for a used vehicle. If it's a truck, we're gonna get something that's probably about 7 to 10 years old and has 200,000 miles on it. So
He
that's,
found one that's actually has less than 100,000 miles on it. And he's really excited about getting it.
what is it?
It's a white twin.
Oh, the white F-150? It already has the city of Floresville on it?
No, that's just like that.
He said
That
it's
is-
white. I haven't bought it yet.
Maybe we shouldn't get the amendment.
We haven't bought it yet. You didn't have furniture, but we
It will
do
be
need
a
that.
similar.
Similar truck to that.
This is Exhibit A.
Because everybody's asking about the little blue truck, the little red truck, it's really similar to that. And because I guess everybody here buys white trucks in the service, so it's a white truck, it'll be like white truck. I guess the insurance is better on a white
A little
truck.
truck would have given us
So
better mileage.
it's an F-150, what year is it?
He found some on the lot from a gentleman, he gave a proposal for a price, what did he say it was?
It's the same company that he's purchased, what is the name of what is the red? He gave me the name of the place, he's been buying the vehicles.
He got the last two vehicles.
Sheet that's got the information.
Yeah, like, what are we buying? I mean, we just.
I mean, what are we buying? We don't even know how much mileage it's got.
Okay, well,
He gave that information last, on the
Yeah.
last.
Or did he?
I didn't
But
read
none of what we were buying. We just,
It is
He did the presentation.
Yeah, it was just a presentation without any information.
We'll bring you the details, we'll bring you the
Well, the
details.
reason why he did the presentation is because we tabled the amendment. So he just introduced it to you guys, so that way when we came in with the budget amendment, and then, he had already done.
It sounds like a steal. I mean, if it has under 100,000 and it's only $6,000, I mean, it sounds
I
like.
will get you the details, I'm gonna
Yeah.
get that, what they call the fox, the Baptist? The car, I'll get the
Sounds
car.
good.
We'll get the car packs for you, so you can do that, so the staff is not opposed to you taking this as well.
Yeah, well, it's right.
Okay, do we have any citizens' comments on this before we vote? That's it, for us to buy a new one. Okay, do I have a motion to table this one also?
Can you head up this deal, Mr. Castellano?
Can you provide us with a truck with good mileage?
Not for $6,000, for $100,000.
He's like, I wanna see that
Yeah,
back.
I know when I get on the lot that has, that's worth $6,000, I mean, it's not, it doesn't have under 100, that's what I'm saying, if it has under 100, it's a rare cab F-150 like that one, it sounds like a good deal, I check it out, and make sure that, the titles doesn't come in pieces.
Don't tell me from where, because we go buy it.
We're ready,
I don't want no part of it.
we're ready that way.
The red title.
Madam Mayor, council members, I've got a fundamental problem with this proposition. This is ordinance number 004, which I was handed tonight. And you're talking about in your ordinance here, having an account to be debited with a zero balance, and the amount to be debited out of a zero balance account is $6,000.